In the month of March last year, I had built a freshwater aquarium in a hydroponic cylinder. Aqua soil, sand, driftwood, stones, and low-demand plants were used to build this simple no-filter setup. I had named it the Planted Aquajar. Nearly 1.5 years later, this is how the aquarium looks today. As you can see, it is doing pretty well. The plants have grown and the crypts have almost overtaken the tank. Currently, it is home to some shrimps and a snail, but it is very difficult to spot them most of the time because of the dense foliage. I had been conducting partial water changes every week initially, but I stopped about 5 months back. I wanted to see if the aquarium could sustain on its own without these water changes. However, I did continue to top up the water every other week whenever the levels went down due to evaporation. The water has always remained very clear. There hasn't been any sign of harmful pest infestation either. It seems that this aquatic ecosystem is working well. I have trimmed down the plants a couple of times and have not used any fertilizers so far. While some of the plants are doing well, others like the Alternanthera perished after a couple of months of vigorous growth. The Juncus repens planted initially had gotten dislodged and was never planted back. It now sits in my propagation box, growing in its emerged state. There are traces of hairgrass where it was planted, but they are on the verge of extinction, mainly due to lack of light, as they are completely shadowed under a canopy of taller plants. The Microsorhum pteropus had died out, or so it seemed, but of late I am noticing a lot of new growth, which is exciting. The topsoil has a thick deposit of organic matter which seems to be benefiting the plants. There is also some algae growth which is quite normal but definitely needs to be cleaned up before they become unsightly and start suffocating the plants. There are calcium deposits on the driftwood near the water surface and also on the edge of the glass. I assume the deposits happen as a natural process of salts being left behind when the water levels go down due to evaporation. As always, I will conduct a few water tests without which it will be impossible to study the parameters of the water, which is key to life in this aquatic ecosystem. The TDS reading is 233. Shrimps need a TDS level in the range of 200 to 300. For snails, the range is 200 to 400. So this reading should be okay for shrimps and borderline for snails. The temperature of the water is 24.7 degrees centigrade. This is a comfortable range for shrimps and snails, and most freshwater fish as well. The API Freshwater Master Test Kit is my go-to kit every time, and I highly recommend it if you are serious about testing the water in your aquariums. The first test is for pH. 3 drops of the solution in 5 ml of tank water will give us the results. The reading is 7.6, which is on the upper limit. To get an accurate reading, I will now have to use the high-range pH solution. The reading is coming out as 8.2, which is actually borderline high for shrimps, but okay for snails. I think a partial water change will fix this. Let's test for ammonia. 8 drops of both test solutions in 5 ml of tank water will yield the result. The reading is 0. In an established and healthy tank, the reading should always remain at 0. Ammonia is highly toxic, and any level above 0 can harm livestock as well as plants. I will proceed with the nitrite test. Converted from ammonia, this is another highly toxic compound in an aquatic environment, and like ammonia, its levels should never exceed 0. And here's the reading. The result stands at 0, which is perfect. The next test is for nitrates. Nitrates are converted from ammonia and nitrites and is considered safe up to certain levels. The testing process involves a few steps of vigorous mixing of solution with tank water to arrive at accurate results. The test readings are 0, which is a bit surprising since tank water usually have some amount of nitrates. So I did a retest and the result was 0 again. Healthy tanks should have a nitrate level of less than 40 ppm, so it should be fine. Large colonies of beneficial bacteria must be working to convert nitrates to nitrogen, which in turn is being used by the plants. This very well might be an indication of a well-established nitrogen cycle in this tank. The water tests have all come out at desired levels with the exception of the pH. I actually did a retest of pH after the water change and the reading by then had dropped to 7.4. Time to address the algae growth. Using my tweezers, I removed as much of the algae as I could. It would of course grow back, and I would need to repeat the process as necessary to keep the tank clean and looking good. It will also be good to do a quick trim up today after a long gap. I would like to clear up the front a bit by trimming off the crypts. Using my long scissors, I went ahead with the pruning. Once the front was done, I proceeded to do a cleanup at the back. Using an airline tube, I proceeded to drain the water, siphoning off organic debris on the surface of the soil as much as possible. I drained off about 40% of the water in the tank. The cleared up space in the front of the tank was filled up with some plants which I had tied to small pieces of stones to prevent them from floating up. They should be able to root into the soil over time. One of the driftwood branches snapped during the process, which was really unfortunate. I filled up the tank with fresh water and placed the broken piece of driftwood inside the tank for now. I am thinking of tearing down and rescaping this aquajar sometime soon. Till then, I will continue to admire and enjoy this aquarium. In conclusion, I can say that it is quite easy to set up and maintain nano aquariums like this. I hope this video provides you with some information and all the encouragement you need to set up your own little aquajar. Thanks for watching and see you soon.